Listen, the 49ers season is reeling a little bit. Not in the sense of they can't bounce back, they can't climb out of it. They just losing people. Christian McCaffrey, I'm not sure when he's returning to the lineup. Then you got Brandon Ayuk now out with an ACL injury, the guy that obviously had the whole contract dispute. Man, it looks bad. It looks bad. And here's what I'll say. This is why I say having a game changer at the quarterback position is important. This is why I say that. This is why when people try to tell me, well, Brock Purdy's numbers look amazing, when people try to tell me Brock Purdy is this or Brock Purdy is that, I always have pointed to when you needed your quarterback to make a play, when you needed your quarterback to be to take that next step, to uplift the team. Can he do it? Can he do it? Listen, we all know Patrick Mahomes is an elite quarterback, but he's playing like trash this season. But again, he has that ability to make that one play that could be a difference maker. His defense is good enough to keep them in a lot of these tight situations, even though the offense looks like trash this year. Sorry, I had to take my shot at the Chiefs. But I think that's the big difference. So I remember there were people out there that were saying, well, Brock Purdy's a top 7 quarterback because his numbers say it. And it's like, if he's a top 7 quarterback, that game that they played on Sunday, they win. They find a way to win. If he's a difference maker at the quarterback position, they find a way to win. It just stinks a little bit for the Niners because it feels as if their season is reeling. They came in with a lot of expectations after signing Brandon Ayuk and after doing all this stuff, The fact of the matter is, it hasn't panned out that way. And I'm afraid that it might cost Kyle Shanahan his job. Mm-hmm. I'm afraid that it might cost Kyle Shanahan his job. I love my guy Sean Brennan in the comment section. He says the score doesn't show how much of a blowout that game was. They scored a garbage time touchdown. Chiefs rolled on them on Sunday. Patrick Mahomes also threw 2 interceptions, and he has more interceptions than touchdowns this season. So that's just an interesting stat too as well. Daniel, but I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on the 49ers season outlook, if you will.
Yeah, I think that they're a team where they are dealing with injuries. And Brock Purdy I really like Brock Purdy. I think he's a very good quarterback. The injuries that they've dealt with, though, and what they are dealing with is something that only elite quarterbacks, I believe, can overcome. I believe that's something where it's only the Lamar Jacksons of the world, the Burrows, the Patrick Mahomes, the Josh Allens can overcome. When you lose your not just number 1 wide receiver, your number 2 wide receiver, when you lose your number 1 running back, a lot changes. And I think a lot changes for a quarterback like Brock Purdy that does rely a lot on his outside situation. And he can make in spots. I think he's a great scrambler. I think he's great outside of the pocket. But it's in moments. It's not over the course of entire games. I think.
Do you think he's a game changer?
I don't think he's a game changer.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
No, I don't think he's a game changer quarterback.
I thought you were going. I thought you were about to start defending him. Well, I'm not gonna lie. I thought you were going to start defending him a little bit.
I think I'm defending him in the sense of, I think he's fine. I think he's in the tier of all these quarterbacks. He's not a superstar quarterback. He's in the tier of the Kirk Cousins, of the Tuas, of even I think he's Jared Goff, I believe, is the cream of the crop of that specific tier. Jared Goff is playing right now like an MVP caliber quarterback, but is he an MVP caliber? Is he a top 5 superstar quarterback? No. And I think that's what Brock Purdy is right now. I think Brock Purdy, we're seeing what happens when you don't have your star talent. And that's what concerns me about this team is they're 3-4 right now. And what's the course of the rest of the season? Brandon Ayuk is out for the year. And I believe Christian McCaffrey's out at least next week, or I don't know if they've got a bye week, but at least out for the next couple of weeks. And at some point, you're going to have to start playing from behind. And that's what concerns me with this 49ers team is they don't do well from behind. And quite frankly, they don't do well with the lead. You go look at the Cardinals game that they blew, I believe, a 2-score lead against. And those are the type of games, the divisional games against the Arizona Cardinals, that how do you blow that lead? So I think Brock Purdy is a fine quarterback. But yes, are we talking about a Super Bowl caliber team right now? I think that they aren't on the tier, even close right now, to a Detroit Lions, to a Minnesota Vikings, to a Green Bay Packers. I think those three teams are the cream of the crop when it comes to the NFC teams. And the 49ers really are standing on shaky water. So you hope that they get better health. And I want to see this team with Christian McCaffrey. But as this team looks right now, they're not of the upper echelon with those other teams right now, and they're just not playing like those teams.
I'm really curious, and Parker, I want to get you in on the discussion. I'm really curious. Purdy has this year and next year left on his contract. I'm really curious, would the Niners go out there and try to make a play for Sam Darnold, who's certainly played himself into a very favorable situation this offseason. I'm just very curious about that. I just want to kind of spew that out there. But Parker, I want to hear what your thoughts. What your thoughts are on the Niners season trajectory or outlook?
Well, first off, I don't know if Sam Darnold gives you a lot more than Brock Purdy's already giving you. However, I feel like that's an ideal situation as far as your 1 and 2 quarterbacks. I feel like those are going to be two very similar players and guys that are going to give you the same kind of production with whatever.
You think so?
I do think so. I'm also a Brock Purdy truther though, so take that for what it is.
Okay, we got a little bias here. It's like Sean with the Chiefs. Got it.
No, I think this Chiefs game, I mean, there's certain games you're going to play throughout the course of an NFL season as a team that you're gonna expose some warts on your team, and you're gonna expose some warts on other teams. And I think the Chiefs just seem to be a team that, every time they play anybody, no matter if they play a great game or a terrible game, teams always play up or down to wherever the Chiefs are at. But the Chiefs have that guy at the end of the game that's going to make those plays, that's going to close out those games. And I think that's what you are missing in a Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy's closer to a game manager quarterback than an elite quarterback. However, I feel like, the elite quarterbacks in this league is kind of that top 5 group. And then you really have from 5 to, you could argue all the way down to 12, 13, where you have this bigger group of guys that they can win. They can go out there and win football games. They can run this offense, but you're going to have to surround them with talent. I think that's what they've done in San Francisco. But I think you also have to speak about how's their defense doing. They've even suffered injuries on the defensive side. I think this 49ers team isn't the actual 49ers that we expected to see or would like to see out there on Sundays. I mean, they got Deebo Samuel dealing with the pneumonia thing. They got defensive line injuries up and down throughout the season so far. I mean, they're missing pieces left and right, it feels like, every week. And so I just don't know how much you can put on the team opposed to just on the week-to-week performances. And that's where I'm starting to kind of buy in to what you guys have been talking about throughout the season, as far as this might really just be a Shanahan issue, where if you're not able to adjust, I mean, it's great having all this star talent in the building. It's great having these pieces on both sides of the ball. But as you lose those pieces, that's where, I mean, yeah, elite quarterbacks will step up in those situations, but top level coaching steps up in that situation.
Yes.
Look what the Packers were able to do with Malik Willis, who I thought shouldn't even be in the league anymore. And they went from a guy in Jordan Love, who they, tailored this offense around, and they brought in a guy in Malik Willis who they even said, like, he can't really do much of anything, but let's make his job easy. And they changed their entire their offense didn't even look the same while Malik Willis was back there at quarterback. And they were able to win games in a dominant fashion. And that's where it's like that's a top level football coach. That is a top level head ball coach. And I think that's where I'm starting to look, where I do still think Brock Purdy's significant talent. I think you have an impressive offensive line in front of him. I think Jordan Mason's been filling in the role of running back very well. I think this defense still has a lot of really good pieces. How are you not able to be more competitive in games that you should honestly be winning?
And I think that's a great point, that, quite frankly, when you look at this past game, when I went and watched it, the Kansas City Chiefs just outcoached the 49ers. And I think that's the thing, to where there is one head coach and offensive mind on one side of the ball that can scheme guys open against man-to-man coverage. That's Andy Reid. When you look at the other side of the ball, not shit was happening, respectfully, for the 49ers. They couldn't get open against man-to-man coverage. And the same thing, I think that's been the problem all year long. Obviously, Ayuk has been injured, but Ayuk has looked like a completely different wide receiver. And I think a lot of that is Debo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, they thrive in the zone coverage. They thrive in finding, the soft spot in the zone. But a lot of times when you do play man-to-man up against them, what is the biggest issue? These dudes they aren't getting open. And you have to, be the head coach and be the offensive mind that you're supposed to be scheming your guys open. I think that's been the biggest concern so far this year is, hey, when guys aren't wide open, right, that's not Brock Purdy's game. He's not always going to extend plays. But what's made it look so easy for them, it's, hey, you establish the run, which they've got so far with Jordan Mason, and you scheme guys open. And I think that's the difference between the 2 years. It looked so easy for them last season. Offense, it looked like it was smooth sailing. And this year, it just has not looked the same. But when you look at that one specific game, I think that's the biggest concern. Kyle Shanahan on offense, he just got outcoached, man. He got outcoached. He couldn't scheme guys open. And quite frankly, when you play from behind as well, your running game, it ain't working. And there's no reason why you're going to pound the rock 10, 15 times in the second half when you're down by 2 possessions. So I think that there is going to be a serious conversation when it comes to Kyle Shanahan. And is he the upper echelon of these head coaches? So,
yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the 49ers the remainder of this season. I'm curious to see how it all shakes out.